My friends, so many of us spend the majority of our lives trying to figure out who we truly are. That's a question that has simultaneously plagued and blessed human existence since the beginning of mankind itself. It is something that has littered the mind of all peoples, of all cultures and climates and tongues. It is not a question reserved for philosophers alone. It belongs to carpenters and truck drivers, lawyers, pastors, teachers, parents, police officers, mailmen, bus drivers, farmers, and so many other occupations. In fact, some of the deepest thinkers this world has to offer are some of those that never went to college and don't have a fancy occupation. These questions of life and reality are at the core of everything we believe and experience. Trying to discover who we are has motivated countless of actions as people have tried to search for answers. Some people look through books, trying to garner whatever wisdom they can from those precious pages. Some people turn to their respective religions, trying to find comfort in the divine. Some people travel all over the world, trying to experience life to its fullest. And some people simply take solace in drugs, more than happy to shut out the harsh realities of the world with chemicals that dull their minds. It's an amazing, disheartening, and fascinating situation to see as people are willing to go to so many different extremes in order to experience some sort of self-realization. All this goes to say that many different people go through many different things in order to catch a glimpse of who they really are. We all want to know the solutions to life's deepest questions, and that's something that only each of us can answer for ourselves. No one else can tell us why we need to get up in the morning, why we need to go to work, love one another, and do anything with ourselves and our lives. Really, the question remains with us. What is it that we're doing here on earth? That's a question that has to get us through each day. Why live at all? What's the point? I don't say all this to be melodramatic, but it is a genuinely truthful question. Ever since the times of Christ himself, people have been looking for reasons to live, and despite our best efforts, for many of us, the question still hangs over our heads. Who are we? What are we doing here on this earth? What is our purpose? What is our mission? What is our goal? What is it that we are driving towards? And what is it that we are trying to do with our time to make our existence here on earth of substance and importance? My friends, looking for who we truly are is a difficult task. It's not something that can be found easily. Sometimes we act as though it's simply hiding under a rock or behind a bush, as if we look in the right place, the answer will simply be there, waiting for us to stumble upon it. But it's not that simple. If it were, life would be much more convenient and there would be far fewer existential questions in need of answers. But my friends, I believe when we face these big questions of life, I think we need to look for answers in places that many of us might not have thought to look before. Instead of trying to find answers in a foreign land, an unhealthy drug, or someone other than ourselves, I believe there is so much more we can get if we simply look into the mirror instead of looking into the vast outside world. In order to find meaning in life, I believe we need to live in such a way that reflects the higher values we hold close to our hearts. I believe we need to live according to the truths you and I know to be reality. I think we need to live in such a way that we can fully and openly value everything that we do. If we value what we do, that places a massive burden of responsibility on our shoulders. It's a helpful reminder to each of us that our actions do indeed have consequences. It's a healthy way for us to keep in mind that we must take action, that we must live a life that is burdened with duty. But it's a burden we should all be happy to share. I have heard of some of the most fascinating stories from people in my life who placed a lot of value in the actions that they took, the things that they did, the work that they put in. My grandma drove a bus for decades, transporting kids with special needs to and from school. Some of these kids had more problems than others, and some had more medical complications than others. Many of them were born with various birth defects that made their lives so much more difficult for themselves than for most other people. My grandma was a genuinely strong woman, emotionally and in every sense of the word, one of the strongest people I'll ever have the pleasure of knowing. She would meet the parents of some of these kids, and unfortunately, when some of these children would pass away, she would realize just the amount of pain that they would go through, how much heartache and turmoil each of those parents were going through. As a mother of 5, she understood what it meant to love your kids. And she understood that when any parent would lose a child, that parent would go through excruciating pain. That was a job that she found a lot of value in, but it was a very difficult job. It was not something that was easy. It was something that put food on her family's table, and it gave her an opportunity to exercise her Christian values of compassion and love. As long as I can remember, she talked about those kids fondly. She loved them. She genuinely loved them, and they always had a special place in her heart. And that was a woman that valued what she did. Even though the job itself might not have been the most glorious, it was something that she found purpose in, and that made all the difference in the world. When I think of people who value what they do, I also think of my mom. My mother said she always wanted to have a family. Ever since she was a little girl, she had dreamed of having a family with kids. She always knew the idea of having her own children, taking care of them when they were young, and watching them grow up to be young, healthy adults was always her idea of heaven. Because she found so much value in being a mom, she always did her best to look out for my sister and for me. She always did her best to make sure we had warm meals and clean clothes and opportunities that she and my dad never had the privilege of having. She was always willing to sacrifice her own comfort for the comfort of others. Just like my grandma, her mom, she always tried and still tries her best to put her Christian beliefs into practice. She does that by being the best mom I could have asked for. That's where she finds her value, and that's why she is someone I am thankful for every single day. She found value in being a mom. She found value in what she did and still does to this day. These are just two of the people I know personally that I look up to as a source of inspiration. People that have always tried to live their lives as best as they possibly could. Of course, they weren't perfect, and they never will be, and they never could be. But the truth is that we need to try. For the sake of everything that is good in the world, we need to try to reach for a higher standard in order to become better individuals, in order to make the world somewhat of a better place. My friends, the message I want to get across is very simple. We need to do what we believe we ought to do. If we believe the hungry need to be fed, then we ourselves need to be the ones to feed them. If we believe the homeless need to be housed, then we need to be the ones willing to give them some sort of housing. If we want the world to become a more respectful and a more compassionate place, then each of us need to become more respectful and more compassionate. If we are not putting into practice the very ideas that we know to be fundamental truths, then we are not living our lives in a way that will make us genuinely happy. I believe we can all think of experiences within our own lives in which we ourselves didn't value the work that we did. By not doing what we value, we deprive ourselves of a life well lived. And I genuinely want to make this as clear as I possibly can. We need to reach deep within ourselves in order to find what is closest to our heart and push it to the forefront of our lives. Then we need to keep it in the forefront of our mind in everything that we do. We need to do what aligns with our beliefs, and by doing that, we will value our actions. And by valuing our actions, our works, the things that we do, and the way that we spend our time, we are bearing the burden of life as best as humanly possible. By doing so, we are helping others. By doing so, we are giving more meaning to a life that many others claim is becoming more and more meaningless. But our existence does not have to be meaningless if we are only willing to do what we know must be done, if we are willing to live by the principles we have in our heart and know to be true, if we are willing to do what we consider valuable and therefore find meaning in our actions, we can say that our lives are genuinely worth living, despite the pain we will inevitably experience and the struggles we will always continue to face. That's all part of the journey, and taking meaningful actions will make life that much more fruitful, that much more valuable. It is there that we can begin to find our own sense of self-worth. By doing what we believe, we will value what we do. And by valuing what we do, the deeper questions of life will become more clear as we better understand ourselves and better appreciate everything that we do. My friends, thank you for listening to my speech, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your day. Thank you.